I always tell people like, oh, it's gonna, if 4 or 5, something like that.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I'm sure people are exasperated. I don't know how much people are actually annoyed by it, or, yeah. And also the thing about live streams is like, I'm kind of into like the short, like, I was a journalist and stuff, so I'm kind of into like the short form content type thing, like in, out, that's it. And
Yeah,
with live streams, not only do you have to like soak up time, but you also have to
right.
wait before people show up. Like, you have to make the first few minutes of whatever you're doing kind of, I wouldn't say garbage, but like kind of filler until,
Okay.
until this kind of stuff happens. So, yeah. Someone just told me Odysee is live. Ash is in the live chat on YouTube. Hi, Ash. Well, hey, everyone. I guess this is good enough. We'll just roll right into the intro and then just start chatting. So, hey everyone, welcome back to Friday, especially the people who are just watching the other show, but whatever. Uh, I have the,
I'm good. I'm really happy to be here.
yeah, likewise. Yeah, I mean, we, the whole, basically the whole Dash network has been around, like, anticipating chatting with you, and I chatted with you the other day, and I just, I knew it would be a nice breath of fresh air for people. And people had, an interesting number of questions and stuff. Oddly enough, for how much people tend to complain about certain things, it was like a relatively calm, muted response of like, all right, let's just get to know this person, not like rabble craziness,
Oh, good.
which uh, ooh, someone already tipped me and stuff. This is pretty interesting. So, uh, for those who aren't used to watching this stuff, it's live on YouTube if you're watching it now there, or on Odysee. Both have links to the other in the description, just in case something goes off with, like, believe it or not, even YouTube goes down sometimes. And when I had Bob Carroll on, the CTO for the Dashcore group, YouTube started crapping out during the stream. And it wasn't just YouTube for me. All of YouTube was having problems just at that time. I'm like,
Sure.
and that was before I started streaming to Odysee, so that was annoying. But I like this question that Sidim had, or I think that was. Let me scroll up till I find the one we had, where he said, "Can you describe what you knew about Dash before you started in your position, and what you've learned about Dash so far?" Quite the open-ended question, but yay, go for
Yeah,
it.
there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Um, so I had been familiar with Dash for several years.
Mm-hmm.
I'd known about the project and I had been following the project at the beginning. And then I sort of dropped off and got involved with a mining company that was mining about, I want to say like 25-30% of all Dash at one point. And
Was it
um,
Genesis?
I'm sorry.
Was it Genesis?
It was a different one, but it
Okay.
was they're pretty into Dash, and I was helping them put together some marketing pieces and to help them attract new customers. And the customer base was pretty small because it
Mm-hmm.
was extremely wealthy individuals or home offices or people like that not just your one-off investor. So it wasn't like any of the marketing efforts were public. It was a lot done, B2B and behind the scenes. But I learned a lot about just crypto and blockchain and about Dash specifically when I had that role. And I kept following it through COVID
Mm-hmm.
and just keeping up on what had happened. And I remember like hearing about it getting dropped from different exchanges and regulatory issues. And so that concerned me. But I have a lot of friends in the technology space. So, a friend who started Blue Mountain Arts. So people, someone who was the first internet access provider to buildings in Chicago. And there are a lot of people who I respect in the early technology, I want to say in the early like internet technology space, what they had to say and the reasons why they were attracted to Dash as a crypto to mine. And so I think that just sort of,
Ooh, did you unplug the headphones or something? I could kind of hear some of, not right now, but Anyway, it was I
Oh,
was hearing myself kind of in a big booming echo voice, which is
oh
unfortunate because I
no.
sound like crap in that kind of context. But it seems to be fine now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so that's a great, I guess, solid background in Dash. And for example, I know that there were some people that were hired by the core team who did not really know almost anything about it when they started, and then just sort of like fell in love after and all that kind of stuff. But it is kind of refreshing to have that long term kind of vision. I
Hmm.
personally, I mean, was into Bitcoin starting in 2013, somewhere around mid 2014 at the Porcupine Freedom Festival. There was some guy who's selling bacon pancakes for Darkcoin, which is what Dash used to be called, and I was like, what's Darkcoin? I didn't hear about that. And I kind of like, then I started working full time in crypto in 2015. And I started like hearing, oh yeah, Dash is that like privacy coin thing that then got more payments. And then I just sort of got involved in the movement. And then, just, it's one of those things where it's funny because also back in 2013, uh, Amanda Johnson was my roommate. And so it's
Okay.
kind of funny how like we both came to Dash through different ways, and even though we've both
Right.
done our separate things plenty over the years, we're both still. It's kind of like when you catch the Dash bug. It's
Yes.
very like, a lot of people really get sold on it hard, and so yeah, then you applied for you saw there was a job opening, and you decided to just go for it, or is there more to the story than that, or what?
Yeah, it was funny. I was contacted by a recruiter and they were looking for someone who had, not necessarily expert working knowledge of cryptocurrency and blockchain and Dash, but they were looking for someone who really had the skill set to take, Dash and Dash Core Group to the next level. So, given my background, I've done a lot. I've worked for enormous companies like Boeing, and got them involved in digital marketing back in the really early 2000s, and have had a lot of roles at startups. So it was really just about money. So when I was approached about this particular job, it just sounded so intriguing. And, the marketing rules for cryptocurrency and for fintech, even, a lot of them haven't been written yet. You know, there's
Absolutely.
there's there's still a lot of testing going on. And, I just saw this role as a chance to A, have fun, B, do a lot of good work. And I, I really like the ethos of financial freedom for everyone. Just, and being a woman, and we have lower levels of financial literacy in the beginning. So being able to have a position where I can, help women understand crypto, help women understand Dash. I mean, that's 50% of the population. And when I talk from people all over the world, not one woman ever said, I'm interested in Dash or I love crypto. And that was just really striking to me. So when I thought of, when I think of financial freedom, I think of it also for females who don't necessarily have the financial literacy, or they may not be the ones making the, the most money in their family, but I want to make it accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
And I saw the opportunity to make a difference here. So it was very attractive to me.
Yeah, that is pretty fascinating. I have kind of noticed the same thing where it tends to be because let's be honest, like dudes are kind of like nerds and sometimes are into like this the stupid hobby. Like how often is there the guy tinkering in his garage or whatever on some like nonsense project, and then his girlfriend or whatever has the common sense to just stay away from it, and so there's a little bit of that like bleeding edge vibe, and it ends up
Right.
kind of coming the other way. Except one thing I have noticed, like as far as I know, so I remember when Amanda was coming to the Bitcoin meetups in New Hampshire here 2013. That's kind of a
Right.
rare situation,
Right.
again, from a rare person. And yeah, that I've seen quite a few here and there like that, but um can you imagine like the opposite, what if it was the opposite? But honestly, I think that there's a good part of this is something that people like you are going to solve, to be honest. Like people are going to message it and take it to the entire world and not just the people that
Right.
stumbled into tech. At the same time, I think that once that starts to happen, we're going to have a technological wake up call where it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, you mean only nerds would use this because it's annoying that no one's going to use these long cryptographic addresses. No one's going to deal with just open a new channel and route through liquidity through your node, bro. Like, no one's going to deal with that. And, other than like the small like nerd contingent. And so, yeah, when it goes to the rest of the world, that's going to help the
Hmm.
technology to really grow up.
Yeah, definitely. And just finding new markets for us, looking at things, differently. So, and women, for example, they're just intimidated by, the environment. I would say like the male dominant environment. And like women just aren't into memes. Like we're not. So, um,
It's sad because I love memes.
I know I love memes too, but even more than I love memes, I love being able to spend my crypto.
Yeah.
So that's, one of the reasons why I'm here is because there is potential here to just grow a super organization. And, you know, I'm happy to be here. Before I took the job, I was very afraid of it being in, an old boys club, like old men's club.
Mm-hmm.
And tech bros, and I've been in many situations where I've been the only female, and I didn't want to be the only female in like a tech bro environment again. I just didn't. So after I spoke to the members of the team and they seemed like decent and normal and happy and professional, and then it was like, okay, good. This looks like a good match for me. So
Yeah.
that's
It's limited as far as who's like involved and stuff, but like I remember uh quite a few in the earlier days. There's quite a few people in the Dash community who are women who mostly heard about Dash through their first crypto love, which is Steemit, because that was
yeah,
like a more creative kind of. It was a more accessible, honestly, like a more of an end user product, to be perfectly frank, unlike
correct.
other things that they could just understand the value of, and that's kind of how they got into it. And then they just, oh, Dash is, you can use this too, and yeah, it's kind of in Dash. Do you have a plan to onboard more women, or do you have a plan on how to do that? Like, obviously, it's much more simple than just like, oh yeah, I'll do these 5 things and then it's done. But I'd be happy to hear. We'd all be happy to hear some of your thoughts on that subject.
So I am looking, for example, I didn't officially state it because I'm still working on the job description and working with a recruiter, but I
Mm-hmm.
am looking to hire a content person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the preference is that this person is female.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if a male's great too, then I don't mind hiring a male.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that women don't know as much about crypto and about the different roles that exist in crypto. And I think a lot of that is just education, and a lot of it is, reaching out, creating meetups. There's different women in blockchain associations, and just making sure that I'm participating in those so that way I can learn more person. And I can't speak for millions of people around the
Billions,
world,
in fact.
billions.
Yeah.
So I can't be like the one representative, but yes, I mean, definitely we should be hiring more women,
Mm-hmm.
and as we continue to grow, then more roles will open up, and hopefully more women will find them attractive and be qualified, and it will work out.
Yeah.
It'll work out.
So I think also a big reason that the crypto, it's all
Right.
engineering and being built, and historically that's been fewer women directly in STEM in that kind of way. Although that I hear that's changing, and hopefully it is changing. But and then as you start to go into mass market things, I see a whole in a absolute meritocracy type system like crypto is, which is it doesn't even like, for example, there's several people who've worked for Dash over the years that just have some strange avatar, and I don't know what kind of
Right.
person, if this is even a person, if it's not an AI or something, for information purposes, because I use this stuff every day, and
Right.
it's it's hard to just say like, well, yeah, I can imagine what an unbanked person must be dealing with, and I can imagine what the power user, and it's kind of, you kind of need some direct intimacy with the subject knowledge for that. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's a ways to go, but we're
Just kind of popped up in a whole lot of the questions here. as far as the all that your role encompasses. So, for example, like this has been a thing where you have a lot of, again, I'll say it again, but nerds, a lot of people in the crypto space just sort of fell in love with the technology, found a way to buy some, and then are now into it. And you have Dash Core Group, which is of just everything is born of the code, and it's kind of interesting when people hear marketing and stuff communicates in a way that gets more people to use Dash, and that's kind of like the extent of it. And so you might end up having a situation where people are like, why is no one answering this obscure forum post on the Dash forum? I thought we had a marketing manager, and they just aren't quite sure, like, why don't we have, you know, why is no one talking to the SEC and regulators about this? I thought we had a marketing manager, and just like not understand
Yes.
what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
So basically, that's a long ass way of building up to the question of what exactly is it that you do at Dash Core Group?
So I think I'm still defining that. And when I came in for three more things,
Mm-hmm.
and I tried to put together a roadmap and I tried to put together three pillars. And the more the better plan you can put together. So it was one of these things where I just completed my third month, which, I'm still relatively new. And I those learnings, there were definitely, like, I saw holes that needed to be filled right away, like one of our largest informational assets. So it was a situation where, like, the more I looked and I was like, oh, I want, I'll run an SEO audit and check to see how the site is performing from an SEO perspective, or I'll check to make sure that we have all of the correct privacy pages and that we're in compliance in this way, or what is going on here, what's going on there. And what I noticed was, first, there just wasn't the infrastructure built that any marketer would need to then grow off of. So if you don't have analytics, then it's very difficult to be able to run any type of marketing and have results to evaluate. So that was a huge priority and a project that needed to be done, and it's almost wrapping up. um, there's a lot of content out there about Dash, and not all of it is positive. And we don't have that much fresh content. And we're not necessarily using our site as an information hub or to help dispel myths or to brag about our products. Everything's so spread out. So I've been looking to try to bring a lot of these activities in-house onto the live website. And so, not necessarily redesign it yet because there isn't time or funds to redesign the full website, but taking a look at what I can do to make it better. So, for example, our mobile site, when I would run Google developer tests, speed site tests, it would come back and say that, our site was red for mobile, and it would take 7 seconds for our site to render or to pull up. Well, marketing psychology, you have 2 seconds to grab someone's attention.
Yeah.
So if people aren't even getting to our content, then that's a big problem. So it's not even like they're getting there and they've necessarily been touched, and marketing resources had been starved for a couple of years, and there was a lot of startup work just to get things to a point where we can be successful. So now I'm in a situation where I can talk to influencer agencies, I can talk to a content firm, I can talk to people to help me, as I'm one person, do a lot of the work that needs to be done, while I can concentrate on strategy and marketing any types of products or relationships that come our way. But without having that done, like, I couldn't move on. So I guess my role is really to look for market advantages, to see where there's openings for us, for Dash to tell a story. So I mentioned women, right? So no one's talking to women. Great opportunity for Dash to get involved there and to really be a pioneer in that place. There are a lot of people who are getting into crypto and don't necessarily even know how to buy from an exchange. Well, we can start to shape conversations there. So I would say it's reaching new audiences, creating strategies to reach new audiences like institutional investors who are very important, reaching out to, alternate vehicles that can take Dash. So, gaming, there was a question on there before about how are we going to reach, 12 to 15-year-olds. And, that's where I want to be. I want to shape their idea of crypto. So when they get to a point where they can legally, buy and sell and trade crypto, their crypto that their go-to crypto is Dash. And we have the potential to be there. And, it's just, there's so much we can do. Another role that I just took over this week is social. So I wasn't necessarily working on social before, but now social's going to be all under my control moving forward. So any type of communications, press releases, media conversations, anything that's going to advance Dash to a new level or to help, continue building that framework is my role.
Yeah. So that was actually kind of segueing into this question of, do you plan on establishing a Dash presence on TikTok, and which social media channels will you focus on the most? That kind of flows right from what you're saying. So yeah, go ahead.
So I really like that question because it's really looking ahead at who we want to know all types of businesses. So for example, we can't ever run Google ads against crypto. We can't. Like Google hasn't been a priority channel just because of the nature of the channel, not necessarily even the audience, just the nature of the format and the other types of marketers that play in that space. I do want to look at it. And, if one of my goals is to reach a younger audience, then that would be an audience that makes sense. I don't think all social channels make sense for us. I don't know if we need a big Instagram presence because, there's not that much visually to tell people yet. So it's really tweeting about something, but it's tweeting about someone or something, and then having that conversation with the community to learn great work. And I'm still examining it.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah, for some reason, every time you stop talking, I start talking. I could hear my horrendously loud voice for like a half second until it turns off, and so
You're great.
yeah, we'll just have to deal with that. So we're talking about the one thing that was kind of asked in there, and the thing is, there's a bunch of like, I'm not gonna say disjointed questions. There's a bunch of random questions about a bunch of different things with a lot of micro overlap. So trying to distill the main points into kind of things. One thing I did see, which honestly is something that I've talked about before, is like how are you going to market Dash? Like how are you going to present it in like a grander way? And the thing is, if you're trying to market almost anything else, it's straightforward. Not necessarily easy, but it's straightforward. It's like what you're selling to people. And Dash is Dash a product? Not really. It's kind of an untapped
Right.
natural resource that then has several products and applications built through it. And it's just hard the same
Right.
degree of like broadness. So, what are some of these, like, let's either say individual products or individual avenues that you're going to consider focusing on for Dash to kind of like present it?
So I think before we go into marketing Dash, we have to talk about our audiences and who our audiences are and who they could be and what's realistic. So for me, when I came in, it was sort of like, okay, I was asked in one of my interviews, how are you marketing Dash? And it was one of these things like, well, I can't give you an answer because I don't have any data. So my role right now is going through the data that we do have. And granted, it's not that robust, but there is enough data to definitely make some solid guesstimates, you know, that are a little bit more than educated, but I've never worked with a decentralized organization before. So there's a lot of learning that had to happen about, how do you collect data from people who want to be anonymous, and these people, build out, you can start to focus and build a profile, or like a customer that you can work against. And from there, it's, trying to extrapolate as much as I can to form audiences. And not audiences are the same. There's several different audiences. So when it comes to marketing dash, we need to have different messages that are going to meet the needs for different audiences. So it's not so much just how are you going to market dash, because that is very broad, but it would be, for example, how do you plan on marketing dash to, let's say, 12 to 15-year-olds? Well, that strategy is going to be completely different than if we're marketing channels, different messages, different, ways to reward people, different partnerships. So, for people who are 12 through 15, like, gaming is a great way to get these people and, introduce ourselves. And I'm a firm believer of, yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was tried in the past that maybe was before its time. And now its time has, maybe now is its time. And so I like to even measure success by, and then coming up with tactics really to, raise brand awareness and to get people to trial dash. And so it's not, I can't just market dash. So I'm going about building my strategy based on our key audiences.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you talk about,
So, we have, so people get frustrated from what I understand. So we're instantly respendable. We have low fees. We have very good security. So that's just solving the basis, in my opinion, the foundation of starting from is a lot higher. So we don't have to go back and make our network safe, and we don't have to, wait 6 hours for a transaction to confirm. So it's, so it's just taking this information and adding to it and speaking above it to connect, because from there we can find out what do they like, what do they not like, and we're finding that out from data on our website. So affinity categories, what are people in the market for when they're also in the market to look for a cryptocurrency? Are these people hobbyists? Are they really into classic cars? Do they love dining out? One thing that came up for me was like value shoppers, a number of them than luxury shoppers. So, I think we're still learning this and putting things together and pulling things together. And it's been fascinating.
yeah, one thing for sure is people have kind of misunderstood crypto as a whole as far as what it can do, what it's for. The end user, the mythical end user of crypto is kind of interesting. And in, for example, earlier today I was doing a podcast. It was kind of like a news recap show, and there's one, the Bank of International Settlements did a study that largely found that people do not see crypto as a hedge against it is government money is being devalued at a shocking rate across even some of the best places. People want to have some place to escape inflation. And first off, I had a couple of thoughts to that, which one was, well, of course, like a bank, the Bank of International Settlements is not going to kind of, they're not going to skew their data in a way that makes fiat currency look bad. But also part of that's right in that a lot of the Bitcoin world has shifted towards, and the crypto world as a whole has shifted towards a speculative kind of a thing where people see, Dogecoin as a game stonk. It's the same kind of a world
Right.
where People just, spin the wheel. There's Doge in the back to remind me of the clown world we're in today, right? But there's just a lot of that kind of stuff going on. And one thing that kind of strikes me is the remittance world, where people keep on
Right.
saying crypto is fantastic for remittance, especially Dash is fantastic for remittances. And then we have people try to use it for remittances and craft people find
Hmm.
a way to sell them Dash for fiat, let's say USD in the US, and then send the Dash somewhere in a developing country like Venezuela, for example, or Honduras or Mexico or wherever, and then find a way to then sell that again for the local currency, and then just all the steps involved. When you're like, what? It turns out to be not as efficient in some ways, or it's just at some point when you start to get a, say, Salvador type situation where now it's money that you can use everywhere. Now it becomes a lot easier to say, but again, Dash is not right now, and that's the Salvador situation is almost universally eventually. Again, a bunch of big chains accept it. It's not
Right.
universally yet. Then you can just say, here, buy Dash to send to your granny, and she can spend it. It's a lot of an easier conversation, but maybe premature. Which kind of reminds me, um, Ash had a really great question, which I think is a highly underrated question in this. And not having this question is like, deadly in some ways, right? Is what metrics slash KPIs or key performance indicators are you most excited to share with the community going forwards? Which let me, the kind of reading into that to another level is you kind of mentioned you're defining as you go along as well as some other things. And then also at some point, people will have no idea whether they like the job you're doing or not. And so that's kind of the thing is like, what should we be paying attention to see like what should be doing well or what shouldn't? Are you starting to
Yeah.
formulate that?
So in that, so that was a that's a really, I want to say, like, great question. And you know when I started, I went through a lot of the old proposals and took a look at, what got funded, what didn't get funded, what, in my opinion, had been an excellent effort that, someone was unhappy about and decided to just pull the plug on it. And, to be honest, it made me a little bit nervous because if you have some of these proposals evaluated by marketing professionals, I think some of the outs wake up in the morning and they're like, oh, I can do marketing, or today I think I'm going to be a marketer. And, marketing is just like any other, skill where, doctors need to be licensed and they go through a lot of school for it and they do a lot of learning and they do a lot of practicing and testing. And so when you have older marketing people like myself coming into something, it's with a totally different perspective than somebody who may have dabbled in marketing here and there as part, of a job they had, let's say 18 years ago. So it was, that I think was really surprising to me in the first place. And I think for me and for the efforts that I do, the KPIs that I'm going to look at is, first I want to look at website KPIs. So visits, wallet downloads, the number of languages that are being utilized. So there's different signals from the website that I want to pick up. But that isn't going to necessarily help me shape my strategy or my KPIs. I really feel strongly therefore, memes are great and pumping up, Doge, have a good time doing it. I'm not telling anyone not to do it or to do it. But at the end of the day, there are people who are very serious about adults in the room behind it. People appreciate that. Yes, I know people say like we're boring, but boring isn't necessarily bad. And so when you start to look at usage and you see year over quarter growth, then that means a lot more than, let's just say, wallet downloads. It's easy to download a wallet, but it's not as easy to put together a plan for consuming Dash and spending it and investing it and, sending it to other people and to even talk about it. And so I think that's the way I'm going to be. Let's say I'm running a TikTok campaign, then I don't know if usage is going to make sense there.
Hmm.
But in that case, it could be a brand study. You could do a brand lift study to see, are you changing your levels of awareness out in the public? And is that sentiment positive or negative? So there's just so much to do and share, and we're really just getting started.
Yeah, that's such a complicated. It's funny because it
Mhm.
like like overlaps with so many of these kind of questions that are in there. A couple questions: what absolute success would look like to you, and then I think Great Wolf had a very good, well worded kind of comment on that. It says many in the community are frustrated with Dash's performance in terms of market ranking and transaction volume count. What's your plan as far as marketing goes to help move the needle in this situation? Do you have any past examples by you or someone else that shows how effective this can be? So basically, not just like, oh, on the overall, stuff's going better and over time it kind of goes up, but like some real things that start to you can expect to start to represent for people watching the block explorers and seeing the transaction counts like trend
Mhm.
upwards, or watching like market cap ranking trend. Obviously you can't control what other projects do relative, but you can start doing like, what are some things that you think you could approach to sort of address that?
Right. And as I mentioned at the beginning, Fernando was again one person, so there was only so much that he could do. And, there's a lot that can be done with a small budget. But really, if we want people to be using Dash, we have to show the benefits of Dash, spending Dash in a store, or having videos of people sending it back and forth to friends, or interviewing people as they go about their life and how they live on Dash. There's all of these messages that can 100% break through the clutter, but we haven't even gotten there yet. And it's future marketing activities. The messages that we talk about, we are unique enough where the messages shouldn't necessarily be a stretch. It's just devising the right strategy to be speaking to the right people to tell our story. And from what I can tell, Dash is just completely under the radar.
Hmm.
And it's whether or not it should be is a question. But, for Coin Market Cap is and how we can help and how we can change the world. And I hate when people say, like, oh, I want to change the world. Like, it's to me ridiculous. But we're really doing acting, we're actually helping people. And we have human interest stories that no other crypto project can compare to ours. And making sure that we go back to all of these old, press entities and old relationships and people that have written about us in the past and just reintroducing ourselves. And I think a fresh start for Dash isn't the worst thing. When I came in, I was a little I don't want to say like taken promise to the community and we're 5 minutes late, let's say. And the way I see it is like that isn't helping anyone. Talk, has a lot of experience. We are making real progress on the technology front. And I think of ourselves as a brand new product, a brand new project. And how are we going to build that in the future? So when I came in, sort of the advice I was given was, start from scratch. And that was one of the reasons why I was starting from scratch. But is it start from scratch. And, at first I was just like, oh my God, that's so annoying. Just the mental baggage of always repeating these negative sayings, like it doesn't help. Again, it's not providing any benefit to anyone. And I wish as a community we just took like a collective sigh and like breathed out for 10 seconds and then cleared our brain and jumped in, because this is so. But when you look at what's coming up on the horizon, it's just going to be win-win-win. And I hope people start to, change the vocabulary when it comes to Dash, because that's going to set our tone for the rest of the crypto space.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. Especially mentioned Dash Direct, which is the what a lot of people don't know is Craypay, the Craypay thing that's coming out. I guess any day now. We'll see. I'm holding my breath still because I'm anxious to use this. Um,
Oh no, we got the last hurdle cleared.
oh, that's good to know. Well,
Yeah.
um, yeah, Marshall said he'd let me know personally when this was almost there. He says he's gonna get me a referral link so I can like spam it on my podcast instead of Bitrefill, which
Yeah, you'll have.
I still use. I still will talk about Bitrefill stuff, but this is a whole nother level of things. But that was another question of like, uh, obviously, when we talk about the past, we're talking about the a new beginning, and to finish up on the past, in 2015, late 2015, Evan Duffield gave a presentation to the Bitcoin Amsterdam meetup or Bitcoin Wednesdays meetup in Amsterdam that is shockingly familiar to where Dash Platform and Dash Pay and all that is ending up today. And so,
Okay.
ever since then, that's 6 long years, right? People have been
Right.
like, "Oh, when Evo is like the biggest meme in solution and stuff like that." There's a lot of trolling going on, and since then, Dash has advanced immensely as far as chain locks, as far as by default chained instant send, which is huge, as far as improving the coin join features and the mixing and stuff, making it a lot smoother and easier to do, in terms of improving the masternode system, in terms of all the legal structures that basically make a real world presence behind the decentralized autonomous organization. A lot of awesome stuff world changing stuff has happened over the years, but it's still that thing in people's minds of like, this is the second coming of the Messiah. This is it. And as such, of course, there's a question on that, but people have had lots of questions over the years of, okay, well, it's finally almost there. And based on like using the Dash Pay wallet and the testnet, it seems like it's pretty awesome. What are we going to do to like basically empty all the cannons when that thing is out and just promote it to the world and just make the biggest splash possible, both because we work so hard on this thing and we want as many people as possible to use it,
Yeah.
and let's be honest, the market is probably punished Dash for kind of failing. People are expecting that if this goes out with tons of fanfare, we're going to see a bump, which I don't know. I'm not going to expect that. But basically, what kinds of ideas or plans or things do you have? All more ideas at this stage than plans, but possibly plans of making the biggest splash possible or whatever when this kind of thing rolls around and actually hits the mainnet.
Right. On first of all, targeting developer communities, because with evolution, the sky's the limit, right? There's all of these amazing things that can be built. So making sure that we have a good developer contact and communication plan is going to be key, I think. So the incubator is going to be, very important for me to promote. The diff, again, very important for me to promote. So those are going to play into big pieces because they are going to be able to bring in people on the ground to help build apps for evolution, and they're going to be bringing in hopefully announcements for companies that can complement it. In terms of working with individuals and groups of individuals, it's really just, as I'm still doing the research on now, it's finding people who love to try new technology. And for a lot of people, this is going to be new technology. And this is technology that's going to be mainstream. So we're going to be able to work with communications outlets like news publications and magazines, and we're going to be able to have conversations that we haven't had before. So there will be an advertising piece for sure. We will be buying advertisements for it. There will, of course, be contests. I'm 100% looking to do on the ground guerrilla campaigns to get the word out. And that's why I started
That answers
asking.
another question.
Sorry?
That answers another question that was on there about do you have any guerrilla marketing kind of campaigns and ideas?
Yeah. So, I mean, and guerrilla marketing is a tactic here. And the more assistance that I can get from the community, the better. There will be, adoption contests, like who can get the most people to download a wallet. There's going to be video contests. There's going to be a lot that we can create along with the community that is going to be marketed. So we want to be able to rewrite what is possible with, cryptocurrency, blockchain code, and what it can do. So when I first interviewed for this position, I was talking to Ryan about one of my goals was to increase use cases.
Hmm.
So ways to use Dash, not necessarily to spend Dash, but ways that Dash can be used in, across the board, I would say, as a consumer product, as a business to business product, as a technology and payments product. So there's definitely different faces on evolution and on the product, but there have to be priorities. There have to be priority efforts and priority organizations. And, for me, the community is going to be essential. And, giving out tasks to do. So again, for example, I was looking for people in Chicago today. I put it out on Discord because I want, to develop like an in-person team with me working on the ground in Chicago, A, to just share information, and B, to start working on a plan. Chicago is a big crypto town and a big tech town. And it's really on the DL. Not a lot of people know about it unless you live here, but we have a lot of technology-based universities that flow in here. And so just and a ton of videos and, a very good distribution plan and reaching for national media. So yes, this is a crypto story, but it's not just a crypto story. It's a lifestyle story, and finding those use cases where we can shape our stories and promote them to the right types of media is going to be huge. So we haven't had that chance before.
Yeah, that's a very it's a very tricky thing, of course, as we're talking about, like just hitting all those kinds of things. Um, the Chicago thing is also something that I've not heard many people talk about like the major hubs. I have heard people talk about New York City and trying to get into New York from a regulatory standpoint as well as just the media hub stuff there. But it's also funny how the this is a challenge that you just do not find elsewhere, where you just like I want to start meeting with people on the ground right here in Chicago. And so you go to like a major discussion platform, you just like put out a message and then there's like crickets because
Yeah, there's a lot of
not
crickets when I write
not
in the
because
channels.
not because there's no one in the area or anything, but just because like it's such a hodgepodge, it's such a decentralized world. I hate to say it in a negative because everyone loves that D word. It's like second only to the dash word, but like it's such a decentralized world that like finding where everyone wants to be and where everyone is and just reaching out to them is very, kind of challenging. But, I do think that we're up to the task. World in the crypto media world has gotten, I wouldn't say gotten away with murder, but kind of gotten away with a lot of, like, gotten away with a huge amount of success on all kinds of crazy faux pas. And this is not like to a marketing handbook that says here you can't do that you just used, like,
Right.
how did Dogecoin get to where it is today? Partially by just raw luck of Elon Musk tweeting about it,
Right.
but he would never have tweeted about it if they didn't have this exceptional meme-tastic branding that just survived the test of time up until it just caught that lightning rod. But I don't think that translates to a ton of new users either. But that's a separate thing. But yeah, it's definitely a thing where um, I see a lot of people with like Hodel Moon Lambo type stuff that are just hoping enough people are curious enough to become interested in the nomenclature and all that kind of stuff and start parroting these things like, oh, run your own node to kill a bankster or something like that. And just all that. And it's working kind of. But like, how much more could this work if people approached it the right way? And there's just something about the hidden gem of particularly the Dash official wallet. When you use it compared to other things, it's it's
Mm-hmm.
not it's not to the point where people are like, this is an absolutely different thing, because it's still the same old QR code sending and all that kind of addresses and
Yeah.
stuff. But it is to the degree where people are like, oh yeah, why was I using the other thing? That's terrible. Like, this is so much better. And that's just one small bit of the thing. There's very few people that bounce stuff back and forth. And this was an original problem of mine when I was setting people up with wallets years ago. I would try to use instant send to send it. So I checked my little instant send tab back when that was a thing. And that way it goes through right away. But for some reason, the way it worked at the time is it would lock the inputs for 5 or 6 confirmations, which meant the change address sending back to my wallet and all my wallets bounce could not be sent for like 5 minutes after I just showed how awesome an instant dash is. And then it was just like, but now everything instant, everything respendable, everything back and forth. And it's a beautiful kind of a thing that we have now in our hands that we can, sort of promote to the question. Let me see if there's any other ones we missed. Also, guys,
No,
feel
I
free to
mean,
ask questions right now, some extra ones.
yeah, and you make a good point in that marketing Dash to people who don't have a crypto background is a very heavy lift.
Hmm.
So, marketing to people who have a crypto background, who know how crypto enthusiasts. And when I think of women, for example, that's like who I think of. And getting them involved is a much more arduous task than talking to people who already know crypto, so many different segments. And when I first started, I didn't realize just really how many customers there are or potential customers and how traditional people have, how crypto is traditionally communicated with people. A lot of room for growth.
Yeah, it's especially just interesting how as I was remarking to some people about how long they've been in the space, like, you know, crypto's been around what, 12 years total, which is pretty new, but it's also at the same time not new in some other ways. Uh, Government has mandated everyone accept it as a form of payment. It's legal tender in a country, and not like a small that is light years ahead of where a lot of people thought it would be. At the same time, how many places take it? How many people actually spend crypto? And it's just like, it's me, and that's about it. Like, there's a couple others, but yeah, I'm being, exaggerating for the sake. But in that sense, crypto is way lagged behind expectations. So it's gone so much further and so much not as far at the same time. And I feel like the fact that it hasn't just stagnated, the fact that it's still gone forward, but then the exact parts are, because that was what Bitcoin is supposed to do. Bitcoin is supposed to be the money. And then Bitcoin became not that good at being the money, that what people used to buy. The fact that Bitcoin vacated that role and that there was room for it. There's been a few different projects saying like, oh, try my thing. It works. It's like Bitcoin, but it works. But like, you know, to send this money here, what can I use to pay with that? There's a couple, Pickens, hi Agnew, said, how I hate email. I don't like to use it at all. It is what it is. I get to. I hate email newsletters even more. However, that seems to be a big thing in the world, I guess. A lot of people keep on trying to sign me up for their email newsletters. So it must work or something. So what are your thoughts on the email newsletter thing?
So I had gone ahead and a couple, I want to say maybe 6 weeks ago, ran a poll about what type of newsletters people would be interested in. And answer necessarily about that because where I was originally considering the effort to be. So they're coming. I mean, I have the technology is just deciding on this out too.
Hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Now, The next one, there's a little bit of a specific thing because basically from the time, from as far back as I can remember for Dash Core Group, um, a charming fellow named who went by Tungfa was the one who was kind of using everything, and as moved on, and then since both of them have now moved on, it's kind of a little up in the air. It kind of was a little up in the air who was doing stuff, and then Mark Mason, who does not work for Dash Core Group, but does work for Dash and works closely with Dash Core Group, was kind of the guy who was doing a lot of the tweeting specifically, but also the other social media for a while. And then you mentioned you're going to be doing a lot more stuff. And,
Yeah.
as someone who does lots of social media myself, I can like recognize people's like fingerprints on these things. I could like, that's definitely an Arden tweet. Like I could definitely see some of those things. And basically Great Wolf just asked, so are you taking over that thing entirely? Or is Mark still going to be doing stuff here and there? Or like, what's kind of the makeup of the social, who is going to be handling the social media accounts?
The plan is for me to be,
Yeah. So the last question we had, as far as I know, Arden's, I'm sorry, I'm just reading from the thing. One time sent a thing that didn't show up on. Looking forward to MVP value and see how easy best strategy for introducing Dash to new people who are hesitant and think crypto sounds difficult. So obviously, if they use Dash Pay, they're gonna see.
So I am putting together in my to-do list, but there are kits for one, introducing merchants to Dash, which would have, let's say window class. So or people, friends that they want, it would have downloadable content from the website. So you could go and print it out on your own. And that way you can have, more data focused or directed conversations about that. So you use it, if you can directly compare it to other projects. So, I have a graphics of Dash versus like benefits of another coin and, or negatives of another coin. But, it's just, we're going to be creating a lot of but I want everyone to be armed with the right information and with the right talking points. And so we're going to be putting that together into, I don't know if a kit
package
activity.
Yeah. That does remind me when you talk about infographics. My huge pet peeve is, for lack of a better term, third tier shit coins coming out with, and first off, it's always difficult to, but also a lot of graphics, please make sure to run them by me so I could at least give a look over and be like, I know that kind of use it this way. It's not quite like that and stuff like that. Well, I think we're about
100%.
Yeah, I think we're about wrapped up. Now, if people want to chat with you again, you're always welcome back on. I do these every couple weeks, so somewhere output's going to be through a lot of the official social channels. But what's your favorite way for people to get in touch with you if they just want to, draw something important to your mind or just chat or like what?
I like Discord, and then I also like just good old fashioned email. Mm-hmm. So I can understand, but so I can't always respond. And that's really, I think, the best way. Community wants to see me as a read the community. And I've never had the pleasure of having this type of asset, and I'm excited to get work with. It's hard to get to like different levels of being able to tackle different projects. So I'm excited for that.
All right. Well, Dash rundown next week, but 2 weeks from now, there's going to be another Dash podcast, and I honestly don't know who I'm going to have on, but I'll figure it out by then. It's only 2 weeks. But now it's time for the magical thing we call the after party, which is just like this, except not recorded, not publicized, and as many people as we want, and just everyone could come on in and just hang out. The way you get to there, you got to go to the Dash Discord, which still the best URL link for that is staydashy.com. I'm going to write that out, and or you can just ping me, and then we should get let in, and then we just chat away, and that's where a lot of like the highlights of people weeks, in fact, kind of bummed me out. But yes, after party this time. And of course, Arden, you're welcome to join if you so wish, or if you have an actual life to get back to, you're free to do that as well. So thanks everyone for listening, and I'll see you guys later.